It's just ticked over 1 minute past 8. It's a Thursday morning. Swampy Marsh is in the studios. It means one thing. It's SportsFeva time. Welcome, Peter Swampy Marsh.
Good morning, Matty. It's a wonderful time of year. It's always a good time of the year to be following sport, but this is one of my favourite because our summer codes are edging towards finals. We're starting to see them come together, and our local teams, of course, battling for trophies and supremacy across their respective competitions, but it's just close enough that all of those winter codes, their trials have started. We're starting to see how they're going to be placed for the season, and I think only a couple of weeks away before kick-off in most winter competitions. So very exciting times around the regions at the moment.
Now, a word of warning of anyone, if you're not a fan of the Sunshine Coast and Gympie Rugby League, in particular our two teams here from the Moreton Bay region, Bribie and Ankabulcha, well, today's show is not going to be a lot of interest to you, particularly this first half an hour or so.
Who's not a fan of the Snakies?
Well, I don't know. I've never met anyone that isn't. But I'm just letting anyone know if they're thinking, oh, we might hear some ping pong news or something today. We've got to hold the ping pong and squash news over.
We do have to hold it over because big things happening in the Sunshine Coast Gympie Rugby League, especially for our local teams this year. We won't say too much just yet, but it's going to be a little bit of a different makeup this year.
Yes, absolutely. And just, SportsFeva was born out of the Sunshine Coast and Gympie Rugby League. So that's, we holds a special place in our heart here at SportsFeva. But before we get on to the Sunny Coast and Gympie Rugby League, we were both out at Dolphin Oval on Saturday night, and it was a great night. Weather looked a bit crook during the day. We thought, it's going to get washed out, but the weather gods looked after us. Only a small shower, and we've seen some really good games of rugby league on the night.
Absolutely fantastic games of rugby league, and a lot to like for the Dolphins, I thought. A huge crowd there. The field was packed during halftime. And full credit to the Dolphins for making that evening just run absolutely as smooth as butter all afternoon. But looking at those games, we saw the Dolphins, Colts and A-grade have wins over Wynnum, while the Folks Cup side did lose. And the Broncos lost both of their games, and probably a little bit more to like from a Dolphins fan than a Broncos fan, I thought, Matty. Some of the Dolphins looking very impressive there in their first outing in a team, as we talked last week, of a lot of new faces that a lot of fans wouldn't have seen in a Dolphins jersey yet.
Yeah, it was a really new look side for the Dolphins. And just on that Broncos looked very rusty, but two players that I thought went really well for the Broncos were Delroy Berryman, who played the first half and some of the second half on the wing, didn't put a foot wrong, looked really impressive, and also Joey Bond, when he come on and played some fullback as well, added a real spark to the Broncos, I thought, who had looked flat before then, and timing was off just a little bit, but that's to be expected. First time he's played with a lot of those guys, but he did add an actual spark there. And
key to Delroy being a little bit off, it was almost too quick for some of the players that were coming out. Sorry, Joey rather. Looked almost too energetic at times, was overrunning a few plays, but when he was clicking, he looked good, and I couldn't agree more that he had a real spark. A real interesting scenario has popped up around Delroy Berryman, who of course was invited to train with the Broncos at the start of this year. Dale Copley, a horrendous leg injury that looks to have ruled him out for the season, and has opened a real door there for the Dolphins winger and Delroy Berryman. It looks like that the two Broncos wing spots is going to come down to Jordan Kahu, who of course is coming back from a long layoff with injury, Lachlan Maranta and Delroy Berryman. So big chance there for Delroy, and we'll keep our fingers crossed here that he can crack a few runs in the first couple of rounds.
My gut feeling, and not going on any, I think he'll get first crack. Yep. I really do. Come round one, I think they'll name Delroy Berryman, and it'll be his position to lose. And it's a similar scenario we've seen to, of course, Moreton Bay's own Jack Reed a couple of seasons ago. Got that opportunity to train with the Broncos in the off-season, made the most of it. And even a couple of years ago, before that, Antonio Winterstein was in a similar position. Got offered a small contract, come and train with us during the off-season. We'll see what you made the most of any trial appearances and went on to be the Broncos' leading try scorer of that year.
And the key for both Joey and Delroy, Matty, I thought, was that they didn't look out of place in an NRL lineup against two NRL quality teams. These were very strong lineups that were on the field, and they looked right at home. They were more than competitive, and they were two standouts, even if you weren't looking at them as much as we were. They were really good.
And all bias aside, Wynnum's Jake Granville was very impressive at hooker as well. So those three players that have got their opportunity from the Queensland Cup on that night looked really, really impressive, I thought. So good signs for those Broncos in the Dolphins side. To the actual Dolphins, like we said, a lot of new faces. Of course, Big Petro Didn't play a lot of minutes. I don't think was expected to play a lot of minutes. Looked really good though in what he done. Caused an error with his first tackle, put the Dolphins in attacking position. But all in all, it was a nice hit out with so many new faces, so many new combinations. I really liked the look of the halves pairing of Strasser and Capewell. Strasser threw a great pass to set up Paulie Ivan for his first try. Interesting to show how many new faces in that side. I think Capewell and Ivan were the only players from the grand final team that played on Saturday night. So,
yeah, that's right. They are the only two players that were at Suncorp Stadium last year. I just like the way that all those new players, Matty, were so eager to get in there and impress. They looked like they knew that this was their chance to cement a spot in this Queensland Cup lineup, and they were playing like that really, really meant something to them. Of course, Petro didn't shy away from any work in the minutes he did have on the field and was much loved by the faithful on the hill. Louis Sheriff, of course, the new import from England, I thought looked really, really good. Took over the goal-kicking duties at times from Luke Capewell and had hands in a few tries, was really energetic, was talking on the field.
His talk was really good, wasn't it? Whether they understood what he was saying, I don't know, but was talking, and that's something you really need from your fullback, is that constant talking, and he was really getting his troops fired up. Of course, the other name, Jared Watson, part of that premiership-winning Colts team from last year, played in the back row for that Colts team, and also seen some Broncos under-20 action last year. He was out on the wing, 3 tries, and good finishing tries. He didn't have to do a lot, but he was there, and that's part of what a winger's job is.
And that's really what we've seen a lot from the person who normally wears that number 5 jersey for the Q Cup side, and Liam Georgetown. He knows where to be to score a try, knows when a try's going to happen, and that's not to be understated by any means. 3 tries there for the young man, Jared Watson. Very impressive. Talking to John Dixon during the week, very impressed with his pack in that trial game. You don't want to read too much into these early trials, but it's worth remembering that the kind of talent that the Dolphins lost through the off-season. Your Chris Farrells, your Derek Watkins, your Matt Hancocks, that really provided such a wonderful platform for the Dolphins. And that was where these big question marks were for this year. How were these new faces that they'd brought in going to stand up and going to be able to hold up that pack? And look, they were really good. The errors were at a minimal. I thought they just did all the basics right, and have got a really good platform here to build on. There's still work to be done. It is only the one trial, but it looks like there's still some depth there for John Dixon to work with, which is going to be a real key if they're going to be any kind of shot for the Q Cup title. One
of the real interesting names that we've seen in the lineup, and I think he's got a real chance to be a cult hero at Dolphin Oval, similar to Palmer Wapau a couple of years ago. A guy called Mark Mexico, who was just a unit.
The biggest of rigs that I've seen in a little while. Our good friend John Sloan told me that he walked into the gym, Matty, threw the squat bar on his shoulders, did 10 at 180 kilos, and looked like he could have dropped 10 or 15 more.
Well, just a note on that. The word around the club is that you've been talking around the Quest newspapers, telling people about that, and said it's nothing, you could beat him. That's the mail I'm getting.
Look, not in a million years.
I'm just saying that's the word around Dolphin Oval, and Mark's keen to challenge you if you want to put the title on the line.
Look, I've got a wonderful physique for radio, Matty, not for playing football or doing squats in the gym.
You better clear your thing up with Big Mark around the club. He's furious.
Look, and just confirming that cult status, and I'd like to claim it, but I'm going to pay all credit to our good friend of the show, Andre Grimaud. He's already given him the nickname of Mark, the one-man cartel Mexico.
There you go.
And I'll tell you what, he with his first run already won a few fans on the hill. It was powerful. He threw 3 or 4 Wynnum players over, and look, if he can cement that spot, he could be a real weapon when, of course, Dave Harler coming back in the next couple of weeks as well, who, again, is a real cult hero and that similar kind of player. A really powerful pack that they'll have.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to that, and we'll see if we can organise that challenge between you and Mark in the next couple of weeks live on the air.
Make sure there's some first aid. I'll be crumpled under about 50 kilos.
It will be interesting. Now, they're off to the sunny coast this weekend, the Dolphins. Interesting name we've seen thrown into the Dolphins this week. Denon Kemp looked like he has been allocated. Of course, part of the Broncos team. A story in the Cura Mail or Sunday Mail on the weekend where he was pulling beers at Wollongong after a stint down with St George and a rugby sevens, had virtually retired. Got a phone call from Andrew G and said, "Why don't you come back, try your luck with us?" He looked pretty sharp on the weekend, I thought.
Looked very sharp, and I was very surprised to not see him in that Broncos side, perhaps because he hasn't had a lot of first-grade football over the pre-season, or, they want to ease him back into it. But looked very sharp, and a real bonus for the Dolphins to have him there, along with, of course, and we can't underestimate this enough, Saturday was the official time that we saw Luke Capewell, be named, and he will be with the Dolphins this year. After some toing and froing in the off-season, it's just where he might end up, and that's a really big win for the Dolphins. And Capewell looked the exact same player that he was last year, and that's probably one of the biggest compliments you can give him, because he was the player of the competition last year. He was really, really sharp.
Yeah, some speculation no speculation. Ipswich made know that they wanted him to play with them as part of them joining the Broncos system. They were very keen to get Capewell back, who had played under the Walker brothers when they were associated with the Titans. So that is huge news for the Dolphins, and best luck for all the Dolphins heading up 5 games, I think, at Sunny Coast, including the Mel Meninga and Cyril Connell Cup teams.
Very quick shout out as well to one of our favourite Caboolture products here in Jake Carl, being named on the wing for the Folks Cup side. It's his second consecutive game there. Didn't manage to find the line at the weekend, but spoke to Jake during the week, and he's pretty happy with his form and looking to impress in the next couple of trials.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done to Jake. Now, it's 13 minutes past 8 here on SportsFeva. We'll play a song, and we'll be back to talk Sunshine Coast Rugby League. The bad moon arising. Here he is, Shane Moon. Good morning to you.
I thought you could have picked a new song for me, a new year, a new song.
I like it. I think it suits very well.
Yeah, it does. Everyone talks about it. They all take the piss out. I have to admit, I love the song too.
It is a ripper. Now, Shane Moon, you're our man. You're our tipping. Well, you started off a terrible tipster, but you turned into somewhat of a tipping genius throughout last year. But we've got you on this morning. You've had a long association with the Bribie Island Rugby League, and of course, at the end of last season, there's no, shying away from the fact that it was a disappointing year for the War Eagles. We were unsure where, what was going to end up with them in 2013. Mooney, bring us up to speed. What's happening with Bribie Island in the Sunshine Coast comp going forward?
Mate, as a lot of people may not be aware, the Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles have a Fox, which is the reserve grade competition for the Q Cups, and they're not fielding Fox team this year in the competition. They've requested to field their Fox team into the first grade of Sunshine Coast Club. They first wanted to be a standalone, but we wouldn't allow that. And we've got a couple of clubs that are struggling for numbers, Bribie being one and Biwa being another. So there was a lot of work in the off-season where I went between the Sea Eagles and the two clubs and the league. And I'm really pleased to announce that and excited, especially for the Bribie Island Warragul Juniors, kids coming through. And this is why I got involved, to see a pathway to the NRL for these good kids, because they got a lot of brilliant players down there. And the Sea Eagles, Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles, will be playing as Bribie's first grade in the first grade of the Sunshine Coast Rugby League next year. Or this year. It's absolutely awesome for the Bribie Island Warragals. It will bring professional and senior coaching techniques and skills and training to the club, and it keeps Bribie Island under 18s, which they have a champion team, and don't be fooled by the way they finished the season a little bit poorly there last year, the 18s, with a lot of injuries. But with the good players on the paddock, mate, they will be up there flying high, and I think with the Sea Eagles giving them that moral support of first grade, we're going to have a great pathway for the Bribie Island Warragul Juniors, mate. I reckon we'll bring people to the club as well, with the opportunity for people that say, hey, I think I'm good enough for a Q Cup side. Well, now they can go to Bribie, they can be spotted and have that opportunity to make it to a Q Cup team.
Mooney, just to clarify this picture for everyone out there, the first, what was previously the Bribie Island Warragul's first grade side, will now play as the Bribie Island Sea Eagles in the A grade of the Sunshine Coast Gympie Rugby League, but the reserves and under 18s will still maintain the Bribie Island Warragul's name and play, of course, in those respective competitions for there. Is that about right?
Absolutely. absolutely correct, 100%. So the Bribie Island Warragals will be reserves and 18s, and the Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles will be first. Now, due to sponsorship commitments and everything like that for the Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles, they will be playing, I believe, in their strip, and Bribie Island will be in their strip for reserves and 18s. But the beauty of it is that at the start of the year, or you could just about say that 100% of that first grade team will be the Sea Eagles. But as injuries hit over a long season and players start to move up and down, lose form, Q Cup's going to drain a lot of the players when required as well through injuries. There's a pathway there for the Bribie Island reserves to actually move into the Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles first grade side, and the plans are still being hashed out, but on face value it looks like the Sea Eagles will train up with the Q Cup side so that they can be moved up and down as performance or injury is required and turn up on game day. But there will be some times where the Sea Eagles will come down and train with the Bribie reserves so that they can fit in with the Sea Eagles patterns and moves and everything as well. So there's going to be quite a little bit of flexibility there, and that flexibility brings skills and opportunity for the Bribie Island kids.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of positives to the move. What about home games, Mooney? Have we got any clarification if they will be played on Bribie? There was some talk that they would still be played as the lead-up game to a Queensland Cup game if the Sunny Coast Sea Eagles did have a home game up there in Kiwana. What's the latest on that?
Well, in the written contract agreement between Bribie and the Sea Eagles, and it will be known as the Bribie Island Warragals Sea Eagles this year, so there's still the dual branding, and there was an agreement that where possible they would move, I think it was 4 games, a maximum of 4 games up there. Well, we've done our draw for the Sunshine Coast, and as the only time there's availability on the opportunities, there's 2 games currently. Now, we've tried not to clash with Kiwana, as Kiwana plays in the field right next door, so there's that to take into consideration, whether Kiwana's at home and things like that as well. So we need to be able to do that. There is the opportunity when Kiwana, when Bribie does play Kiwana, to maybe move an extra game there if they want to do that. But there's going to be a lot of consultation between Sea Eagles, Bribie and other clubs. But currently the plan is a maximum of 2 games when the Q Cup's at home. The Bribie will be playing up there.
Mooney, we've seen, especially in recent years, a wonderful line of talent coming out of the Warragals in your Matt Gillette and your Jack Reed, and really it's an incredible story of a club that doesn't have a massive player pool to draw from, is really limited in really the player pool that they're ever going to be able to draw from. A great opportunity here to keep that player pathway from the Warragals, and a really proud history of producing quality players out of their junior ranks alive and well with this association with the Sea Eagles.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And just on that little side note there, that with the recognition of the Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles joining up with the Bribie, I believe there's 5 or 6 of ex-Bribie first grade footballers that were running around in first grade or reserve grade on the Sunshine Coast that have now signed with Bribie again. So that's brought us 5 or 6 of the boys back home again, and it provides, as you said, that pathway. And you've got to look at the opportunities that have already come out of Bribie. The amount of first graders that have come from there, whether they've come through the Moorfield Excellence in Sports program as well, but they're being Bribie Island Juniors. That's their hometown, and they don't forget that. The Gillettes and that all come back, and they work with the boys, and they come down, and the young kids out of Bribie, they get excited when they see someone that they've grown up with or watched play. All of a sudden we're running on to the Broncos in first grade and also international for England.
Mooney, there is, of course, going to be some concern amongst the Bribie Island ranks that they might not be seeing any of the rugby league. It's definitely not going to be the case, but I mean, I suppose the hard reality was that if this was an association there with the Seagulls, there perhaps wouldn't have been a whole lot of senior footy on Bribie Island next year regardless.
Absolutely, because the plan is that we've, as a league, we need to nurture and support our clubs and build them up. And let me tell you, the mining industry hasn't been kind to any club on the Sunshine Coast. There's that many of ex-first-grade footballers and excellent footballers that are working in the mines.
It's done wonders for the Gladstone and Mackay comp, so, Mooney.
Oh, yeah, mate. And some of those small-town country towns like Emerald and all that, I believe some of those have got some pretty hot sides as well. But it's done nothing for our club competition, so we need to consolidate and make sure we're putting our efforts in. So the plan is we've got 8 first-grade clubs this year, and they all had to send in a business plan of sponsorship and numbers of and why they should be considered for A-grade competition. And there's 8 C-grade competition, currently 8 C-grade teams this year. Yeah. And that, so at the end of the day, there's a good balance. Now, the first-grade clubs that had C-grade teams last year, currently as it stands, which we're reviewing, are not eligible for C-grade. So we're trying to push those numbers around to help the clubs maintain a solid strength. Because it wasn't only Bribie and Bewell last year that struggled, you must remember. There was other clubs like Gympie and Nambour and that they struggled at times, and Noosa with reserve grades. And you have a look at Noosa's lineup this year. You've got 2 ex-Australian NRL and Australian footballers playing up in Noosa this year in first grade. Currently, they've had a large influx of players as well.
Who are they, Mooney, just for the listeners?
Well, you've got Scotty Hill, who's retired to Caloundra and been talked in by Goldthorpe, who's taken the captain coach role on again at Noosa, to come up to Noosa and play. So you're now going to have Noel Goldthorpe, who was, 150 plus games in first grade, and Scott Hill, who played for Australia and was a World Cup 5'8", only a matter of, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 5'8", pushing this young Noosa side around.
Yeah, no, because there's a lot of talent in that Noosa side, and then Dane Campbell, former coach of that side, has become president of that team, and of course a Moreton Bay local, so that's huge. And of course Goldthorpe, known for Noosa's glory run, was at the helm playing there as well, and I think also a member of the Sunshine Coast team of the century as well, Goldthorpe. So they're 2 huge ins for Noosa. So it's exciting times in the world of Sunshine Coast Gympie Rugby League. You no doubt will keep us updated with the competition and Bribie in particular as the year goes on, Mooney. We really appreciate your time this morning. We're about to talk to Caboolture coach Chuck Tomlinson about their year ahead, but we appreciate for having you on the show this morning.
Thanks, guys. All the best listeners. And let me tell you, don't write that Caboolture Bob up, mate. They have some stars coming through there, juniors too. I've watched a few of them run around too over the years, and some of them coming up through the junior program they got there. They got an awesome program there. Chuck's really got his finger on the pulse there, and mate, he's got a great program for the kids there as well.
Yeah, we can't wait for the footy to start, Mooney. Thanks very much, mate. We'll talk to you throughout the year.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, listeners.
Cheers, Mooney.
Bye, mate.
Swampy, huge things in Bribie Island Rugby League.
Yeah, and look, there's no denying it's a double-edged sword there, Matty. It will mean that we're not going to see quite as much Rugby League on Bribie Island as we have in previous years. But as we were talking to Mooney, was the cold hard fact was that if this association wasn't in place, there was a pretty good chance there wasn't going to be any senior rugby league. And
no.
Incredibly important that for the junior ranks that they see a pathway through to an A grade side. And what that association with the Seagulls does is that it not only gives them a path to an A grade side, they can see a Q Cup position, and then from there, we saw Mitch Bucket last year get picked up from the region from the Sunshine Coast Seagulls. Gives them a path through to the NRL, and that pathway through, a clear pathway through for juniors to see, is so important to keep them in the sport and to keep them coming through. So, look, it's it's a wonderful deal, I think, and great to see that they're still maintaining that the Bribie Island Monkey are on the A grade side. Of course, the Bribie Island Seagulls they'll play as. And look, it's been a tough few years for Bribie Island in the Sunshine Coast Gympie Rugby League, no doubt. But I dare say there's going to be a few teams that won't want to be lining up against the Bribie Island side this year.
Oh, fair enough. They've gone from probably not having a team to being the premiership favourites, without a doubt. And it's a real, I think, in theory, this is a great opportunity for Bribie Island and Sunshine Coast Gympie Rugby League as a whole, if it's balanced right. There is a danger this just could be Sunshine Coast Fogs, and that Bribie link will be in name only. If it's managed well, it's a tremendous opportunity for the region. And
I suppose it's a really good for this to come in at the moment when it's easy to highlight why it's important for that link there. That Bribie Island under-18 side has a lot of talent in it, and we saw them not want to push too much of that up into A grade last year and sort of dissuade those young boys from continuing with their rugby league careers. They were some real talents in that side and pushed that competition right to the end. As Mooney said, injuries really got them. But that's right at that time where those guys go, okay, I'm either going to have a crack at this, as something that I want to do, or I'm probably going to give this away and perhaps go and chase a job in the mine somewhere. So important for them, for those 7, 8, 9, 10 players in that side that really want to give a career in rugby league a shake, to have an opportunity like this, on Bribie Island and with the Q Cup and with the Sunny Coast Seagulls. So, going to be a very interesting year ahead.
It is an interesting year, and that is that good point with the Sunny Coast comp, say, 10 years ago, was such a strong comp because you'd seen the likes of Goldthorpe and Rowdy Sheeran and Julian O'Neill, and some of these players would retire on the coast and have a season. Now these players are retiring from league and going to work in the mines now, and we're seeing such strong competitions that I think there was one team in Moranbah last year that had 8 former Origin players in one team, not in the comp, in the actual team. So there has been a real shift away from the Sunny Coast comp and the strength, I guess, of the comp. Huge news. I know Caloundra had been chasing Scotty Hill for the last couple of years. It's huge news that we've got him in the competition because,
And you can't hold it against those guys that do want to obviously go and chase it.
Not at all. And I know Caboolture have been impacted by it as well.
Yep.
So.
These guys aren't paid to get out there, and it's a huge commitment that they do put in. So there has to be a time where they've got to decide whether they put their families and their future lives first when it doesn't quite add up for them.
What we need to find some type of mineral to mine here in Caboolture.
We do. What can we mine?
Don't know.
Best we don't ask, I think.
Get onto that, Swampy. That's your job for the week.
I'll call Clive and say, look, what can you do?
Find something for us, Clivey. Time for a song, and we're back to talk to Chook Tomlinson. 24 minutes to 9 here on 101.5. You're listening to Sports Fever with Matthew and Swampy. Time now to turn our attention to Caboolture Rugby League and the year ahead. And joining us on the line is the head coach for 2013, Chook Tomlinson. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Chook, it's been a little while that the boys have been back in training now, kicked off in the later stages of last year. Before we get to any competition stuff for this year, how have you seen pre-season so far, and how have the boys been looking from your perspective?
A few of them have come on a long way. The ones that been turning up regular are seeing the rewards, but it's been a bit of a hit and miss start to the year with numbers and with the weather. So there's a few areas that have been thrown in there which sort of just made a little bit shorter numbers at sessions.
And, of course, very important there to be able to build and lock down those combinations before the season does kick off proper in only a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, that's right. We get underway in a month or so. So, it's something that needs to be addressed and the boys start to turn up. So the ones that are there, they're looking well. It's just the ones that are just tied up with work and whatever other things that are going on has made it a bit harder.
Now, Chook, there has been, of course, as there always is, a few retirements and shifts away at the end of a season, but the Snakes are really blessed in that they've got such a strong reserve grade side that has done so well over the last couple of years, and I understand you're looking to promote and see a few of those reserve grade guys feature in A grade this year.
Yeah, there'll be a few brought up into A grade just through with retirement and stuff, and for them guys who have hung in there and done their time in reserve grade, they'll get an opportunity now to step on up and cement a grade spot.
Now, of course, there's not long till we do see some footy return to Centenary Lakes and to the Snake Pit. March 3, I think, on a Sunday. First trial against the Southport Tigers coming up.
Yeah, it'll be a good hit out for the boys. It's been a while in training for the ones that have been to most sessions, but yeah, it's a good chance to look at a couple of new guys and bring some of these kids through and see how they stand up to playing with the men.
And I understand a full afternoon of footy there from about the under-16s right the way through to an A-grade side, so well worth getting down to Centenary Lakes on that afternoon for the games. Chook, few returning Snakes greats this year that have taken up coaching positions within the club.
Yeah, we got Matt Morris on deck with helping out with the 18s, which is good. So he'll do well with them, with the kids, and nice learning curve. It's a good way to start with the young fellas. You learn how to manage people a bit better. So it'll be good. It'll be a good asset for the club.
And, of course, one of the real stars of the Snakes' run to the Premiership in 2011 there in Matt Morris. Chook, it's always good to be talking Sunshine Coast Gympie Rugby League. We look forward to the season kicking off, and thanks very much for your time this morning.
No problem, bud.
Cheers, Chook.
Cheers, Chook. Chook Tomlinson, the Premiership winning coach of the Snakes in 2011. He's been at the helm for the last couple of years. Great news to have him on board again, because the word around was after last year that he was going to hang up the clipboard again. But I think he's well respected amongst the other coaches, and him and Robbie Bruff, no doubt, considered the premier coaches in the competition.
You get the feeling there's perhaps some unfinished business for the Snakes from last year. They look really, really good. There are a few, including myself, who've got to wear that. Hadn't backed them to go on the run that they did, and had that incredibly impressive performance against Gympie. And you thought this is them, winding up for another premiership tilt, and two games where they didn't play anywhere near to what the Snakes could. And that's probably the toughest way to go out, when you know that you haven't played to your strengths and that there's more that you could have given in those games, and it just didn't click.
We've seen it. We were there for both those games. We were there. We've seen such a clinical performance against Gympie at home, where they were, no doubt, right up there with Kiwana as premiership favourites. They couldn't have played any better that night. Then we seen the two games where it kind of just all unravelled, and we were sitting by the bench there, the Caboolture bench, and we just seen the frustration from Chook and the players knowing we've thrown this away. Like that, it just didn't click on the night, and it can happen in rugby league. And it's unfortunate. Probably their two worst games of the year were those two semi-final games, and we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen with the Dolphins in a GF as well. So it just sometimes doesn't come together, and once you're in a game and those things start to unravel, sometimes it just gets worse. And
that's exactly what happened. You started to see passes go awry, and that trademark discipline that is you look at a Chook Tomlinson side, and that's what it is. It's a disciplined, well-oiled side, and that they all just started to players weren't there for passes. Passes were going to ground. The timing was off, and like you said, it all just unravelled a little bit.
They started to question themselves rather than just playing footy. See it happen, but I think you're right. It's unfinished business. The thing is, I think this bribery thing could have an impact on the Snakes and what's happening there, whether or not any in particular players defect. But it's we've seen it a few years ago, very seldom when bribery's strong is Caboolture strong at the same time. It normally ebbs and flows. So it'll be interesting to see what impact that does have.
Could be very different though, Matty, because remember this Rugby Island C team will be training majority up the Sunshine Coast. So, we're not pooling players from the same kind of geographical region here.
No.
So we could see that scenario play out this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully Bribey Island and the Snakes go 1-2. That'd be huge for the Moreton Bay region. And I'll tell you what, would it be? Would the listeners be tuning in for the local derby?
Sure would.
Yep. So looking forward to that one. It's 17-9. Time for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back to talk more sport. 12 minutes to 9 here on SportsFeva with Matthew and Swampy. Swampy's giggling away because my earphones are broken. I feel like I look like a droopy dog with one earphone just hanging down.
Perhaps you're taking up a career in DJing.
DJing, just one ear. I need some records in here. Dear, oh dear. Time now to talk about one of my favourite sports, though, Swampy. I'm a huge netball fan, and we've got a great young star from the Moreton Bay region joining us on the line now. Mary Jacey joins us here on SportsFeva. Good morning to you, Mary.
Good morning. How are you?
Look, we're really good here, Mary, and very excited to be talking about some fantastic up-and-coming young netball talent from the region like yourself. Now, for those who don't know, Mary, she, of course, plays in the Semna Netball Club, which is based out of North Lakes, a good St Columban's product, mate. There's another one in the studio here as well, in the local region here, and has recently been selected in the Queensland Under-19 side that is heading off to play at the National Championships in April. Now, before we get to those championships, Mary, it was a pretty long and gruelling selection process that you had to go through to get selected for Queensland.
It dragged on for a couple of months. We had a few weekend camps where we had to do lots of different sort of things. We had to do lots of fitness testing and all that sort of different stuff, and really tested you like mentally as well as physically in those trials. And
one thing about netball is there's not a huge squad that does get picked at the end of the day, but a huge pool of players that is competing for those spots. So a real cutthroat atmosphere there as well.
Yeah, and this year they actually also cut it down again in the second phase of trials as well. So it's really, it's a bit difficult to get through those sort of times and know that at the end of the day you could be cut potentially.
Fill us in a bit on your background, Mary, where it all started with your netball career, and also what position do you play?
I'm a goal defence, like a circle defender sort of thing, and I started off just in the normal sort of steps, like through club, and I started off in rep, Div 2 really, so I didn't really start anywhere good, and as I went through the rep process, and then I went to the Mount Franklin Challenge now, and then now I got into the Lynx tier team, which was good. I started doing like the shadow for that. And, then I just kept on going up through that sort of those steps, and I eventually got to Queensland.
Now, of course, the big game or the big championships is in April, Mary, and I imagine training is in full swing. How's the team looking ahead of the championships?
I'm really confident with the team this year. It's really strong, and all of the players have got previous Queensland experience, so it's really good to kind of have that experience on the court because it's a lot different to what normal netball is when you get to nationals. It's a bit more rough and mentally challenging than you'd expect it would be. Now,
we're very blessed in the Moreton Bay region here to not only have yourself as a talent in that side, but also two younger players who have just graduated from the under-17 Queensland side and earned their selection into the 19 side in Dominique Scott from Burpengary and Mahalia Cassidy from Marumba Downs. Two very good young players as well, Mary. What's the secret? How come? What have we done to get three fantastic talents like yourselves in the Queensland side?
I think we've all gone through those sort of like steps with the younger program. So I think just because netball's such like a big sport in our area, sort of thing, we've got so much opportunity with all the facilities, and it's so close to home as well at the moment with all our netball and how we start and that sort of thing. So I think it's just really good that they're building those sort of pathways for people like us to go up through it and make it to where we have got to. So.
And speaking of, I guess, the ultimate pathway, we've seen another Moreton Bay product and another goal defender in Jacinta Messer make it all the way to the Firebirds. Is that something you're aspiring to as well, Mary?
Yeah, well, that's the dream, I suppose. Like, when you get into netball, like as starting Queensland, I suppose that's kind of where you want to head up, like head to, and where you want to end up. And at the moment, we've been doing some training and like training against the Firebirds and that sort of thing. So it's really exciting to see where hopefully we will be in the next couple of years, I suppose.
Now, I believe the Queensland side finished fourth at the last national championships. Mary, who's going to be the big competition this year?
Yeah, well, Victoria, as usual, will have a really strong side because they just train really hard and they're really quite big girls, I suppose. But yeah, all the teams are really quite competitive. It's not like there's no one that gets smashed, so you just have to work really hard, and at the end of the day, hopefully come run down top.
Mary, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on this morning, and wonderful to have three young talents in the Queensland side from our area here. We'll definitely be cheering you from the SportsFeva studios in April, and we thank you very much for your time this morning. Best of luck.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Mary.
Thanks, Mary. Mary, Josie, you're from made the Queensland Under-19s team for netball, a superstar in at the moment. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I said, write down Tommy Opacek in the rugby league. I've done some research as well. Write down this name, Mary's, as well, because she's a star of the future.
A real testament to the value of hard work. I followed Mary's career in a couple of those sides coming up for a little while, Maddie, and as she said, she wasn't in any of those star sort of, rep teams as a junior, but is a genuine hard worker on the court, and through that has earned her spot in multiple Queensland sides. Starting from that sort of under-17 side. She's in that older age group in the under-19 side, so this will be her last year to play there. But it's just so wonderful to have Mary in that older age group, and then the Dominique Scotts and the Mahalia Cassidys really coming through in that younger age group, and they're three really fantastic talents from our region that you might, like as you said, you might want to soar away in your head for a few years to come. They're three very competitive and very talented girls who could be featuring in the ANZ Championship in a few years to come if they can continue this form.
Absolutely. Now, the big thing, we'll have to talk to our good friend of the show, Jacinta Messer, in a couple of weeks with the Firebird season just around the corner, but no television coverage at this point for that competition, which is a huge blow. I used to love turning on Channel 10 and turning on the ANZ Championship.
And it's a really sore point amongst these girls that are just on that fringe and coming through, and even in the younger netballing communities. It's a real shame that it wasn't picked up by Channel 10, because it's such a any sport that's going to be on TV has to be a good TV product, and it was a fantastic product that they had there. It was really exciting, and anyone that tuned in, I'm sure, became a fan. It was really good stuff to watch. So a real shame that it hasn't been picked up yet. There is a petition running, I believe, on Facebook that you can jump on. I'm sure if you do a search, you can find it pretty easily, to try and get the ANZ Championship back on television in some way, shape or form.
I think they're also exploring the opportunity of what the NBL went down and setting up their own kind of league pass where you pay a subscription fee, which is, say, $50 or so a year, and then you get access and you can watch it on your iPad or your computer. And we do something similar with the NBA as well, but I know the NBL went down that track, and the NBL lovers love it because you get all the games live, you can watch whatever games you want, and it does suit really well. While mainstream TV would be the best option, this may be something to explore as well.
And very important for, just like the Bribie Island Warracles Juniors see Matt Gillette and Jack Reed running around, very important for the next generation of, the teams at the Caboolture Netball Association to see the Jacinta Messers plying their trade at netball, to really, netball is one of the biggest sort of emerging professional sports in Australia, and as it should be. It's a fantastic pathway for the girls to get through there, and it's very important for them to be able to see that product on a national stage, and really help them drive them through.
Yeah, well, the two great stories from the Firebirds is Jacinta Messer, who's come from this region, and Laura Geitz, who's one of probably the most recognised names in Australian netball, from a small country town, made it all the way to the top to be, one of Australia's premier players. And it's where young girls can see that and see that there is, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you put in the hard yards, you can make it to the top. And
netball's got everything there in the lower grades too. They've got a fantastic pathway that we're seeing Mary and Dominique and Mahalia are in sort of one stage of it at the moment, and this is the same pathway that Jacinta Messer, of course, good friend of the show, came through to get to the Firebird. She, played in all the cruise, the Holden Cruise Cup sides, played in the Mount Franklin sides now, which are the rep sides for their associations before that, and that's how she found her way into the Firebirds from there in Queensland sides. And it's a very well established pathway and an easy one for anyone that's playing netball to say, yep, that's how I'm going to get there. It just needs to have that television coverage behind it to really cement it in.
Yeah, it's just that last tick, and it was great coverage that we did have for the couple of years there. So it is disappointing, but we'll keep our eyes close to that one. Now, full-time siren is about to go. 2-minute warning. We're into the...
No more penalties?
No more penalties, no more deliberate fouls. Speaking of that, All-Star game on the weekend, we've seen Australia's own Kyrie Irving winning the 3-point comp.
Yes, well, I hesitate to call him Aussie Kyrie.
I do. Whenever he does well, I call him Aussie Kyrie.
Is that like Russell Crowe? When
he
makes a good movie,
Crowe,
he's rusty, but when he's...
Crowded House, if they do good things, we claim them. Farlap. Oh, I think we can claim Farlap. But, no...
Is it the Pavlova or the Lamington?
Pavlova, I think it was. But Australia's own Kyrie. Of course, was born in Australia.
Yeah, but he's... And look, you can't hold it against Kyrie for choosing the US. He's a real shot.
Was very close to signing on to play for the Boomers. It was only that his coach through college was going to be announced as an Extreme Team coach that he actually switched allegiances to the US. But that's a story for another day, Swamp. But West, of course, beat East in the All-Star game. So... it's a tick for the good guys there in the NBA. But so... next week, we're probably going to be on Friday. We're just waiting for that confirmation. Thursday's out of action next week, but tune in for Friday.
You do know how competitions get shifted around in the pre-season, where we're much the same.
We just might have to fit in on a Friday next week. We'll see how we go. Definitely won't be on the Thursday, but fair chance we'll be on the Friday. But we'll keep you updated. Thanks for all the people on the show this morning. Bad Moon Rising, Shane Moon, filling us on the Bribey Island situation. Chook Tomlinson letting us know about the Snakes. Of course, Mira JC was just on talking about Queensland Under-19 netball. I'm off to buy a new set of headphones. These ones are Gonski. They've been good to me for about 18 months, but need a new pair. And Swamp, we'll read about you in tomorrow's paper.
Absolutely.
Northern Times. Stand by now for the national news and then Morning Magazine for all your news, views and interviews. We'll catch you probably next Friday.